how can we be better people? On what basis should we formulate our aspirations? This is a matter which everybody in every culture has been thinking about for forever, for at least 5,000 years. And the one conclusion that everybody has come to is that the Socratic method is useless. That, getting in a professor who doesn't really understand mathematics, doesn't really understand decision theory, and, decision theory, it's pretty damn academic, and it's rubbish, because that's not how decisions are made. So, getting in people who know a little bit, they've taken a few courses, and, maybe they've learned a bit of Greek or Sanskrit or Chinese or whatever, and they've studied, or Hebrew, and they've studied original texts to some small extent. So, these are guys who, they can, they can be teaching assistants, and they know how to do the footnotes, and they know how to, they know how to turn out an essentially worthless product. And this is really what's happened with Agnes Callard. Agnes Callard, she's now being promoted as a sort of, somebody that people can relate to. Why can people relate to her? Well, the Holocaust. Ooh, Jewish from Hungary. And I think the family moved to America. I'm not certain about that. So, you've got the immigrant thing, you've got the Holocaust thing, you've got, she's a mom. And I think she has numerous progeny. She's been married, a couple of times, something like that. And you see, in her, she's been promoted really, as look, she's really smart because, she did some maths at one point, but wasn't good enough, which is why she's not doing maths now. She did, Greek and Latin, but she doesn't really understand. I mean, you're not going to turn to her to say, give me a new insight into Euripides. You're not, because she's stupid. That's the other thing about her, is that she's got this kind of, I'm neurodiverse, Maybe I'm autistic. Maybe I have a secret. Or maybe I was sexually abused or something. But I've been scotomized. That's a psychoanalytical word. So, there's something peculiar about her. And she's marketing herself as this peculiar person. And especially over the lockdown, I think, Callard was writing really worthless shit. Every single sentence is just false. It's just stupid. And the myoetic method, the Socratic method, is actually to say, well, look at that first sentence. There's a lie there, and there's a mythology, there's a hatred of logic. That sentence is wrong, and the sentence after that is wrong, and the sentence after that is wrong, and you're mad, you're stupid. Why are you lying? That is actually the myoetic method. Of Socrates, which of course is a much better myoetic method. The word myoetic means it actually has to do with gynecology, with how the embryo, the creode, the development part. The word creode means a developmental part, and we now understand that this thing switches on, so you get this, and then this has to switch on. And we need to be very worried if this is not switching on in time. You can have these prenatal interventions, and that's becoming more and more possible. And that's marvelous. That's really good. So, but actually, Plato's Socrates, he has the notion of a palinode. He has the notion of you're going down this way, and then you change mid-flight. You change direction. That's a creode. That's a developmental path. It's not just go that way. No, it's, go this way, and then you go, a palinode. You're changing your mind, going this way, going that way. And of course, Brouwer, L.A.J. Brouwer, was one of the great mathematicians, one of the heavyweights. And, he responded to the crisis of modernity. He responded to the catastrophe that overtook European idea, that overtook the European Bildungsbürgertum. In other words, before the First World War, you have, in Europe, you have this tremendous confidence in the Greeks and Cicero and, the humanities, and this is allied to tremendous progress in mathematics. England was a bit of an outlier because, England had fallen behind in maths. And England was making mistakes at the time. By contrast, in America, you have really, really smart people. Pierce, Dewey is a very nice man. So, you have intellectual heavyweight of pragmatism, Pierce. And you have Dewey, who's a nice guy. So things were happening elsewhere. Tagore in India is actually quite important. Elijah Brow says that, Tagore should be one of the men that we elect to an international academy to just stop knowledge, idea, going down this gathering path to apocalypse. And he says this in 1915 when that's what had happened. He was not a Cassandra. That was just reported. It was happening. Europe had gone off the cliff. So, as I said, now Elijah Brow, he comes up with the notion of choice sequences, and that's been very well elaborated, and it's actually very useful, because you can get univalent foundations. This is Vygotsky's work, and it's really about making things much more productive. For example, computer checking of proofs. So we can, like most of us, like me, when I was 17, I realized that I was stupid as shit. Because, I could, I could get very high marks in mathematics exams. And that was actually a bad reason for me to specialize in doing maths exams. That was a bad reason. Because I also knew that I was not creative in maths. That exactly the same thing which made some guys creative in maths, that also made them less likely to get 100%. I'd get 100% because I don't give a shit. I just, and this was the English approach, the old English approach of the wrangler. The wrangler, is like a cowboy. He wrangles the steer, so he's just a very good calculator. But, most wranglers were not productive mathematicians. They were not productive in any way, Once they developed these muscles and they'd done this exhausting thing and they'd got the accolade of being wrangler, and that's it. They fell asleep. Keynes was a wrangler, worthless cretin. But he was very cultured. He was very cultured and very gay. And being gay and cultured is actually a good thing, because gay people see things which, the blinkered, the guy who's similar to Keynes, like Keynes's parents, who's kind of going, well, I've got to get my son into bloody Eton. I got to get him into this. I got to, or my daughter, I've got to get her married. You're blinkered. You don't see what's going on in society. And, you could be as homophobic or as racist or as whatever as XYZ, But diversity is a good thing. Not too much. There's a Goldilocks condition. And in fact, there's a very good Chichelniski, Graciela, I probably mispronounced her name. And she had some good results in that field. But once again, as I say, it's a mistake to apply algorithmic methods to any social science or to any liberal pursuit, because she's now gone mad. She's just talking nonsense about quantum mechanics, just as Hilary Putnam ended up talking nonsense about, and these are smart people. Kripke, as far as I come to show. But it looks as though Kripke is talking nonsense about the end of time axiom. David Lewis, smart guy, ended up talking nonsense about mathematics as methodology and Fuck that. See, the big problem in philosophy is that you've got a style of philosophy which starts off by going, well, most people would agree that cats are dogs. And most people don't agree. No, that's nonsense. Shut up. You're just talking shit. And of course, I mean, if you put it in a politically correct way, if you say, well, most people would agree that we should give all our money to very poor refugees. And, in a classroom, you must be going, fuck the refugees. I want to give all my money to a dope dealer. I want to give all my money to a prostitute. Because I'm a virgin. Well, parts of me are virgin. Well, they may be. I mean, yeah, so this is just what's called, Timur Kuran is a very good Turkish economist, and, he's developed the notion, these are notions which already existed as part of the behavioral economics tradition. It's also something that Agnes Callard knows about. It's her that I'm talking about, her worthless books and articles. She's very much aware. She quotes a great Israeli game theorist, a lady, but but then she stops there. And you'd have thought that an academic like her, she's Jewish, and I'd imagine she'd, she's well thought of. So she'd be in a position to know exactly how and why that lady changed her views to accommodate the later, things like prospect theory, the behavioral economics, things which came a bit later, which come out of Israel, which are behavioral economics, and which, got a Nobel Prize, and which, nudge theory, and these sorts of things, very much in the news. So why on earth is she sticking with some obsolete decision theory? Just, why is she writing nonsense? Answer is, of course, she's writing nonsense because she's on an academic treadmill. But there's another aspect to Callard, which I think I'm trying to express now, which is that, she seems to see that philosophy has gone down the toilet, that it's not attracting smart people anymore. So what can you do if philosophy has become adversely selective? In other words, if you're going to get stupider and stupider students, which means stupider and stupider professors. Well, one thing is, of course, you can do grievance studies. You can say, well, as a proud transgender Native American guy with diabetes, I'm going to talk some nonsense now, that we're underrepresented, that, and Callard is underrepresented, and Agnes is ducks are underrepresented, Magnus, Mallard, nonsense. But the other thing is, of course, the notion of safe space, and she's internalized this, and maybe because she comes from Hungary. And, there's the other, she often writes in a Martian manner, as though she comes from a different planet. And of course, Hungarians, they used to refer to people like von Neumann and the really smart Hungarians. They'd say, oh, they're Martians. And it was a sort of an inside joke among Hungarians that, the Hungarians are Martians because they're so bright. It's like, and von Neumann really was bright. And, some of them Erdish and, this one and that one. They were bright, but, let's face it, there are bright people everywhere. And, it's foolish. The thing is silly. But the other worrying aspect, not just about Agnes Callard, I've seen that in Elizabeth Warren and some other female professors, is that there's this notion that your students are the victims of horrendous epistemic self-abuse. They're sort of raped, they're shell-shocked. And, they're like Helen Keller. And your task is to somehow communicate with them. And, it's like they're going, wah, wah, water, water. And you go, well, water, water, yes, very good, very good. And then, you know, and then in philosophy, they'd be going, House, 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 Aristotle, Aristotle, turtle. Aristotle, excellent, excellent, you know. This is Agnes Callard. But I think some of her lockdown pieces, the little things which she wrote for the Point or for the MIT or whatever, I think there was the older, you know, there was always a market for the supermom, you know, the woman who has her career, she has the kids, she has the husband, she has, you know, she's doing extremely well in her career. And then she writes these sort of self-deprecating little articles saying, you know, making fun of herself and sort of saying, well, you know, actually, I'm not, everybody thinks that I'm cooking souffles and, you know, roast suckling pig, or I'm not Callard, obviously she's Jewish, but, you know, everybody thinks that I'm, you know, Martha Stewart. Whereas the truth is that my knickers are dirty and, you know, I haven't washed my bra and, you know, the kid just came in and said, Mommy, is it okay if I, you know, eat a turd? And I said, yeah, go, fuck off, just eat a turd already, I don't give a shit. You know, yeah, so, and that's supposed to make other women feel good, because, you know, they're kind of going, fuck this bitch, this super bitch who's like the professor or whatever, and, you know, she's doing so well. And you know, and she's saying, no, I let my kids eat turds, you know, no problem. And also, my knickers are really dirty, I haven't washed them, and, yeah, you know, my husband's gay. You know, that's it. So, you know, these sorts of revelations, that promote, you know, it's part of pop philosophy or pop, you know, it's popular. It's a genre. There's this genre of the, you know, the perfect woman sort of admitting that, you know, my knickers are dirty and I let my kids eat dirt. And she, Agnes Callard, of course, fits that pattern very well. Now, I must admit, having said all this, why not would I bother to publish a book on somebody who really is worthless? You know, she doesn't have any interesting thoughts, she's stupid, she's incapable of understanding the Greek and Latin texts, which she, you know, she's actually studied that, but she's shit at that. She's shit at maths, she doesn't understand shit, and she writes like a cretin. You know, so why go after such a soft target? And the answer is that she doesn't have to be so shit. I think she's marketing herself as shit. I think these are market forces which are forcing her to be utterly worthless. That, in other words, if we change the mechanism, you know, and economics is about mechanism design, you change the incentives. If we change the incentives, then suddenly Agnes Callard is somebody who's worthwhile. She can become what she probably aspired to be. But how can she do that? Well, you know, she's written a book about aspiration. In aspiration, you know, one meaning of the word aspiration is breathing in. You know, and, the thing is that she's breathing in a fucking gas fucking chamber. And yeah, that's a Holocaust kind of reference, isn't it? You know, because you know, she's obliged to do Holocaust references. Because she comes from, yeah. What? I would. I can do references to the fact that, you know, the British, yeah, they ruled over my people, and they didn't just rob us of our wealth. They subjected us to fellatio and cunnilingus. precious sperm was robbed from my father, his father. So don't talk to me about Belsen and Auschwitz. Well, no, actually, because because I'm sure Hitler would have loved to send me to such salubrious places. Actually, the odd thing is that Hitler was cozying up to Indians who were really dark, and even Africans, while he was sending blonde, blue-eyed people and killing them. So, Hitler, not a smart guy, even by racist standards. It's like, if you're a real racist and you hate black people, you should be, you're kind of going, Hitler, guy, why are you allowing the Indian and the Sierra Leonean or whatever, why are you letting black people into the Waffen-SS and letting them go off to France and drink a lot of beer and rape a lot of the local women? There is black. Don't you get that? But, like Hitler's, not a smart guy. Even by racist standards. There's a gentleman who, while he was in Germany during, in the 1940s, he'd gone there as a student, and he was an Afghan, he was a Yusufzais. And the Yusufzais, of course, claim to be descended from Joseph in the Bible. They claim Jewish descent. But he was fine, and he had a pretty good time. But he was smart enough to run away before the Free French, the French resistance, gained control. Because the French resistance, they killed. They were racist because they'd say, "You black guy in German uniform, we're just gonna kill you," So the black guys who worked for, or brown or whatever, Afghan or whatever, their big problem was to find British or American officers to surrender to, because they had to stay away from the French. Anyway, I'm full of, my book is full of little, and my work is full of such nuggets. And I should emphasize that what I'm doing is not philosophy, it is social proctology. Well, you know what a proctologist is. This is not as messy, and, you don't have to wear gloves. Anyway, do read the book for yourself. Better still, there's a paperback coming out. Send it as a gift to somebody you really don't like.